Hello, and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
I'm Emily.
And I'm KristaLyn. And this week, honestly, between the astrology and the new moon being in Pisces, this is a week where you might feel more floaty than grounded. But
hmm
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, the big thing we were talking to some of the forgotten storytellers about this week, and both of us were like, watch out for accidents.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Let me just not sip my coffee to be able to emphasize that. So the reason I'm saying not watch out for accidents is we have this on Friday, so the day after this podcast releases more publicly, on the 8th, we have a Mercury conjunction with Neptune, which can create some confusion, but is also really awesome for channeling and meditation and those consciously slow and still things. But if you're not feeling consciously slow and still, you may be made to be slow and still unconsciously by outside events.
Mhm.
Then that is exacerbated the next day by Mercury moving into Aries, which kind of puts our feet ahead of us when we're running, if you've ever had that happen. Um, but also the same day, Mars will square Uranus. This is where I feel like impulse could lead to unpredicted outcomes, which could be
Mhm.
really exciting, or it could lead to accidents if it's not something that you've been moving along with. So, again, being in the moment and present with your decisions and your actions will be very helpful for this. And just trying to make sure that everything feels aligned and in your power. The sun is also sextile to Uranus that day. So there is the ability to say, I know this about myself and I will take this action. And then we do have that new moon on Sunday where we'll have the opportunity to rest. I'd highly
Mhm.
recommend rest, processing, and then looking forward to the next day when Venus moves into Pisces, where she's exalted, and we get some like warm and fuzzy feeling from that until she meets up with Saturn. But hopefully, that's still pretty warm, cold, and fuzzy. Maybe it's cold and fuzzy. Get a
It's just
heated.
still fuzzy,
Yeah.
like it's still
You still like
fuzzy.
the
It's
fuzzy.
it's like the feeling when you get into your bed and it's a cold night and you want to get in your bed, be warm immediately, but you're not warm immediately, but you're really
Mhm.
comfy and it has to like your body heat has to like warm up the blankets. That's the energy I get from it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So like it's not that you don't think you're gonna get warm, it's just it could hurry up, please.
Mhm.
You know?
Yep. I've
That kind
gathered
of
I've
energy.
bundled myself up. I'm ready for the result. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really interesting energy this week, and I completely agree with Krista. It feels very floaty, like not encourage you to ground enough this week. Ground your energy, do grounding things. Whether that's standing outside barefoot or putting your hand on your head or doing a grounding activity, warm baths would be really, really
Mhm.
good.
Grounding with water
Um,
is great this week.
yeah, grounding with water is pretty perfect. If you're where I'm at, putting on your snowsuit and going and laying in the snow would be lovely. The grounding technique as well. Um, Anything like that, really going to need the grounding. And I will say the accident style energy is already kind of coming up as we record this on Monday. It's going to be a whole week of like, be careful.
Mm.
Try really hard to move slowly. Don't rush through things. It can happen.
Yeah. And I will say be patient with others, especially if you are someone who works in customer service. People are going to be making mistakes or they are going to be discovering issues that they were not aware of until this last minute situation. I lived
Mm-hmm.
this morning
Mm-hmm.
where I had done what I thought was my due diligence on something, and then realized that the process on the other end of the screen did not do what it needed to do. So I called for help, and the person that I dealt with was not very nice. They were experiencing that sort of Marsy thing, and
To cuss for Krista, they were an asshole. Like, just put that straight in.
I still wished them well at the end of the call, but I did actually have to affect my mom's voice, which my husband was like, "You sounded like your mom," and it scared me. And I was like, "Good," because this person needed to respect me for a hot minute to understand what was going on. So be firm in boundaries and respect each
Yeah.
other the way that respect needs to be done. Because sometimes you need to demand a little bit more respect and let people know how you're willing to be treated. And
Yeah.
sometimes you need to give people a little bit of grace because they're in the middle of a frazzled moment. So you'll know, I trust that we can all, kind of pick up on those instincts and
hmm
and have that kind of empathy for each other as needed this week.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I will say, and I mean I so deeply mean this. Please take care of your body this week, whatever that looks like for you. Um, health things are weird.
Yeah.
Health things are weird in my personal family already. I've had some like weird emergency stuff this past week, which was scary, but it is what it is. But weird is the theme. Like health stuff and body stuff is very weird for people right now. To the point where I know a lot of people are getting sick with mystery things.
Yeah. Yep.
And this week it's gonna just kind of continue there. So doing things like wearing a mask, taking your vitamin C or your magnesium or whatever you're needing to support your immune system, immune health, eating the best that you can this week. And that doesn't mean no junk food. That just means what is the best for your body in that moment. Sometimes it is a brownie and that's fine, but just making sure you're actually talking to and communicating with your body, wearing things that make you feel very safe and secure in your body, just really taking that time to cultivate the comfort of feeling healthy and connected to your body this week will help so deeply. And whether that's resting or working out or whatever it is, that's fine. But it just needs to be you and your body's personal relationship getting explored.
And one of the things that I've been really working on as far as exercise and food being a language to the body
Mm-hmm.
is if you are exercising, be present in the move that you're doing. So A, you avoid injury, and B, you are communicating with your body how strong you both are. And you get these victories and this great relationship with your body that you end up being proud of it and feeling good about it. Same with
Mm-hmm.
food. Take your time eating your food, experience the flavor of the food, enjoy that process for as
Mm-hmm.
long as you need to. One of the things that's been coming up a lot around people that I've been talking about is nutrition, but also the practice of putting the fork down between bites so that you can sort of refocus on where you are rather than just going through the motions and not even realizing that you had something that you probably enjoy. And then you end up
Mm-hmm.
going for another one because you didn't get to experience the first time. Experience it all and enjoy it for the whole moment that you have with it.
Yeah. Stretching. Even if you
Stretching.
don't work out, just stretch this week and do that same sort of experience each stretch, experience each movement, hold that movement for a second, or even with dynamic stretching, doing yoga flow or whatever, like experience the whole part of the flow of your yoga. It will really, really help, especially this week. I mean, at all the time. If you want to have a better bond with your body, experience the things that your body is experiencing, which I know sounds a silly thing to say, but I truly mean that. Like, experience the things your body's experiencing. Our mind tends to just ignore what our body's experiencing a lot of the time, and that's not cool. So, experience what your body's experiencing. It'll help a lot. With the whole energy of this week. And again, slowing things down. This is not a week for speeding in your car. This is not a week for going as fast as you can from one thing to another at work and bumping into something and whatever. This is not a let me navigate these tabs as fast as I can on my computer type of week. This is a intentional, conscious slowness on purpose week, which is fucking difficult. So I'm just gonna throw that in there. It's not easy to go that way, and I know that. But that's why we're telling you now in happy little tones to just try
Mhm.
to be slow so you don't have an accident and hurt yourself, or others, or property, or that we don't want to hurt. Yeah. And then the new moon energy is kind of interesting. It is rest, and I would say releasing any sort of blocks, limiting beliefs that inhibit you from feeling confident in your rest, in your ability to do what you want, in your ability to move forward in life. Like that confidence element does come in, or that security element. So I would work on like manifesting security, not releasing. I meant manifesting. Manifesting security, manifesting comfort, manifesting rest and aligned rest, and that sort of thing comes in really strongly with this new moon.
Yeah, I would say also leading with your heart and taking action based on that. So that
Mm-hmm.
when you feel the impulse to take action, double check with yourself, just take a beat and say, is this who I am? And if it
Mm-hmm.
is, move forward. And if it isn't, reassess and take a better action for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think manifesting ability or, opportunities to show up in divinely inspired ways
Mhm.
that align with you is a great call on that one too. It's honestly a really nice new moon. I
Mhm.
actually really like the energy of it. It's quite pleasant to be totally honest. I'm pretty
Uh,
excited.
it's got some it's not bothered by anybody, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of nice. It's separating from Saturn. It's separating from Jupiter as well, but its most recent aspect had been with Jupiter. Actually, its most recent aspect will have been with Uranus, but we consider Uranus to be a little bit different in traditional astrology when it comes to that. So we have the moon separating from Jupiter and applying to the sun, and that's a really nice place for the moon to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to be, instead of making moon water, I will be gathering moon snow, which is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously a lot of people have asked about this. Like, how can the new moon charge water? Well, it's not the moon, it's the sky. The sky is the lack of moonlight is charging the water.
So that's, what you're capturing is water without moon charge, which is in
Hmm.
and of itself a sort of energy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like grabbing ether
Hmm.
instead of grabbing light.
Hmm.
That's what it is. So, um, after the snow sits outside under the new moon, I will be putting it into a little container and letting it melt and using that for manifestation things. So, okay, yeah. That's how I'm going to be using probably the energy of this new moon. Also, probably the day that I'm packing very extensively for our
Yeah.
adventure, our
Yep.
sojourn to Egypt. Um, we're excited. So we mentioned on the last episode that we wanted to talk about Egypt and so just a little bit more in depth on what we're going to be doing there and also why we made the decision to go ahead with our travel to Egypt. Especially now because a lot of people we've gotten kind of a couple different things going on and a couple different responses, I think our parents are a little worried because of the conflict happening there. So I've gotten like that expression. But also for us, we didn't want to in any way take away resources that could be used to help the Palestinian people and refugees coming from Gaza into Egypt. And we were very concerned about that
Yeah.
um, because Egypt obviously borders Gaza. And as of right now, which if anyone is wondering how they can help the people of Gaza, there's multiple links in the bio in my bio that I have on any platform. One of them is a way to email your representatives demanding a ceasefire. It does all the wording for you. It fills in everything. You literally just have to hit your name and send. It's like 5 seconds. It's so easy. But that's a very simple way to do it. I also have resources for donating, resources for information, a whole bunch of different things. So if you're interested in understanding more in the history of Palestine and all of that, like I do have resources available for you. But we know that with the fact that Israel is still continuing their bombardment on Gaza, there's a ton of refugees that are either wanting to get into Egypt or who have come into Egypt. And we were very concerned on we don't want to take those resources for going on this trip. So we've
Yeah.
been talking to operators on the ground. We've been talking to people at our tour companies, like all these different things. And we ultimately made the decision that it would be in everyone's highest and best and the way that we could do the most good to go on this trip.
Yeah. And so we did have video contact with people who are there. And
Mhm.
I actually can affirm this from the last time I was there in 2019, when my guide was saying Egypt is so reliant on the tourism. That is their economy. And so
Mhm.
if this would stop people from coming, it would create a problem for their economy. And then they would be less able to support, if they needed to, other people as well. So it feels strange that one of the best things you can do is, go visit and experience these places in what would be considered recreational, but it is actually their primary economy.
Yeah, the truth of it is right now with the way Egypt's economy is, they can't take on the refugees without completely swamping all of their citizens as well. Like their economy would completely crumble and collapse if that were the case. So that's why we're seeing a lot of very stringent things coming from the Egyptian border to Gaza of being like, private companies demanding payment for Gazan refugees, things like that to come through because their economy quite literally can't handle it, which is I'm not making an excuse for a government. Like, all governments can figure shit out. Like, don't get me wrong. But at this point, like, they're also in a very kind of dire straits with that. So they need the tourism. So for us going there, we're actually supporting the economy in a way that hopefully will help them to take on more refugees and do more good and create, more help in the world. Um, my dog is actively pawing at a door that is buried under snow. Like I couldn't open it if I tried. It is so he can't even see out of it. I don't know what he thinks is going to happen. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background. I'm like, what are you doing? Callum, stop. Come here. He's determined. He's just staring at the snow wall. Anyway, the other thing that we're going to be doing as well is I know between Krista and I, we've donated so much money since October 7th to different organizations trying to help the Palestinian people and help the situation going on in Gaza. However, we also know that a lot of Western aid has been blocked pretty significantly from actually reaching the people of Gaza. So we're bringing additional aid with us the best that we can to try to give it to actual organizations within Egypt when we're there that can help the refugees and people of Gaza as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bringing it directly as much as we can to the source, which is going to be really a relief, honestly, for the energy that we've been sitting in with the conservatives and the feeling of powerlessness. Now we have something we can do.
Yeah, so we're going to fly there and go do what we can do, which isn't ever going to be enough, but it's the best that we can do. And we're going to keep doing the best that we can do until this conflict ends, until this genocide ends, because it shouldn't be happening at all. And the fact that it is horrific and awful. And yeah, we just want to do our best to help with that. And it turns out going to Egypt is actually one of the best things we can do to help with that. Putting our tourist dollars in and things along those lines. The other thing I want to just note on a spiritual side, because we were a little on the fence, obviously, like we've been talking to people on the ground in Egypt since December, really trying to, honestly, early December, trying to make sure that we were as conscientious as possible and doing the right thing morally and also fiscally and also physically to make sure that we're not inhibiting any issues or causing any problems or anything like that. However, things really escalated. And we got kind of nervous about halfway through February. We're like, is this in our highest? Like, are we doing the right thing? And we both demanded from our guides, like, we need a clear yes or a clear no in time to inform our travelers or whatever. If for some reason this is a no go, we think it's a yes, but whatever. And our guides pretty much gave us a very solid yes or no, absolutely go sort of energy. So we're absolutely going. We're both thrilled to go. It's going to be incredibly exciting and magical. But just know that if you need something like that from your guides, like to make a big decision, whatever it is, like just like literally ask, be very clear, be like, I need a yes or a no by this date. I need a clear path forward by this date. I need it to be inevitable that I understand what's happening by this time. And let them show up for you.
Yeah, because if guides require for something to happen as well, they will make sure that they do it in the timing that you need because you're the one doing the thing. So it's really helpful to say, listen, reminding you of how time works in this in this existence. I need to know by now, by this point, what I'm capable of doing at this point. And they come through, and they did this time too. It was really encouraging.
Yeah, every time. I mean, I've never had it fail. That method, never ever. And it's just the other part of it though, and that's the reason I said like let them help you, is the only time that it doesn't work is when we ignore or block out what they're trying to help. So just be open, put that intention out to the universe, put that intention to your guides, and then just be open. Just be like, okay, I'm gonna accept what answer comes, however it comes through. We're gonna ride this wave, and then let yourself actually accept whatever's coming through. It will make a huge difference and be really important. Yeah. So also we wanted to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing like while we're in Egypt and going through. This is going to serve as like our initial thoughts of how things are going to go, and then we'll do an episode post Egypt. We'll tell you all how things went in regards to what we're planning on doing. So we have like a really full itinerary. It's a 7-day. Well, I think for both of us, it's going to be more of like I think I'll be traveling for a total of like 10 or 11 days. I think maybe 12 days.
It's 10 days for me.
Yeah.
Probably 12 days.
So, yeah, we have some long layovers. We're spending some time in just like a day, basically, in Italy as well as for a layover sort of situation. So we're there a little bit longer, but we're in Egypt for basically 9 days total. And it's really cool. So Trova Trip, which is the company we work with that does all of our trips, which honestly, it's the best way I've ever traveled
Yeah.
ever, which
Yeah.
is so weird to say about a tour company because I've gone on other group tours and they kind of, I'm not gonna say they suck, but they're not great. Like
They're like stale. It's like a
they're,
stale experience where you're not sure if you actually went there and experienced the place. You sort of
yeah,
looked.
yeah, it feels like it's very cultivated to be the tourist experience. Like we're gonna go see these things because that's what we do as tourists, and here's your headphones, and it's just it's not, even if you are traveling on a bus with people too, it's also people that might not share your same vibe, might not share your same energy. With Trova, not only have we every place we've gone, we've done the touristy things. We've gone and seen the touristy things, but we've done them in a way where you can tell that the consciousness of energy has been put into it. So even when we've done like this big touristy thing, for example, like going to see the Parthenon, right? Like we went and did that. That's like the touristy thing you can do in Athens. But it was still like, yes, we had a guide, and then she was like, go do, and we all got to walk around and channel. And it was the timing that they did for this event was when everything would be as little tourist as possible, even though we had to wake up super early to do it. Like it's just things like that. It's very well cultivated, and the experiences we get to have because of that are so personalized. And we
Yeah.
get to experience the people and the culture and the ancient sites and these different things in such unique ways that I've never experienced when traveling before, like literally ever. It's so cool.
Yeah. And I really like that we are provided with a guide who remains with us the entire time, and they meet
Mm,
us first and foremost, and we get to plug in different workshops and different experiences that we can do sort of in addition to the itinerary, but also we meet with this guide and we say this is our focus, and you get people like Malcolm who are like, I know you have a day off, but with the people that you have here and with the focus that you have, would you like to do this? And they
would
give us,
you,
or you want to go jump off a ship in a volcano in like
Olvera?
volcanic water, or do you
Hmm.
want to make a pit stop at this Ogham stone, which happened in
Hmm.
Ireland because our guide literally talked to his sister and said, these people really like spiritual stuff and they want to learn about fairies. What would you recommend? And we got to have that extra experience that was
Hmm.
sort of off the traveled path. And so because we get to say, this is our focus, this is what we're interested in, I can't wait to talk to our guide and say, hey, if there is any sort of like spiritual inclination that we can kind of lean into in these places, they will know and they will be able to find out for us, and we'll be able to get
Hmm.
that tailored experience to the interests of the people that we're bringing.
Yeah, exactly. And the channeled history sort of lilt and the deity lilt, like we can bring all of those elements in. And especially we're so excited to do it in this place.
Mhm.
I mean, Egypt is like, it's one of those things that like I feel so honored we get to go and experience at this point in our spiritual growth and at this point in our careers and at this point with all these beautiful people that will be getting exactly what they need in order to activate and come back a totally different person. um it's going to be amazing. It's really cool. So we have really fun things planned too, which is going to be like, there's some things where I'm like, wow, I can't wait to see that temple, and then there's some things like, yes, let me on that camel.
Well, and we're going to be talking about animal communication, so we can appreciate the camel and be, fair to the energy of this camel, which may be overworked or who knows what,
Mhm.
and sort of give energy offering in that space. And Egypt in and of itself, you had asked me before the call, are you excited? I know you've been there before. And my response still stands. Egypt is where I feel like I get to wear my soul on the outside
Mhm.
because it's got so much energy to it. And I really hope that everybody else gets to experience that as well. It was the first time I went somewhere that I felt like fully myself. And I got to know that feeling enough to be able to bring it home. And it changed everything I did from then on. So it's a really activating location.
Yeah. And it's really cool too, because I do think we're doing equal parts culture that is present day
Mhm.
and equal parts ancient stuff. We do get to go to the Valley of the Kings and walk through the Valley of the Kings. And I think the Valley of the Queens too. They are neighbors.
They are close
Um,
together. And I bet if we ask, we'll definitely be able to have at least some opportunity.
yeah, so we're gonna get to go through those spaces to feel the both divine and masculine and feminine and figure out, connect with the leftover energy there, which is gonna be incredible. we're going to see different temples at Luxor. We're going to do the Saqqara pyramids. Of course, we're going to do the Great Pyramids, but that's like the thing I'm looking forward to the least. I know that sounds bad, but it's like the energy where I'm like, yeah, that's okay. That's great. Love that. It's kind of like the difference between when we go to Rome and we go and see the Forum, which is lovely and amazing, and that's fantastic, versus when we go to like Ostia and we see how people like actually lived. Like it's just those different energies, and I'm so into that one where I'm like, this is, real and more connected, and it hasn't been as pillaged by the Vatican. It's
Mhm.
kind of that sort of vibe, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's and then we're gonna get to do a sleeper train, which I know a lot of people haven't ever gotten the chance to do, especially if you're from the United States.
Mhm.
We don't have trains for the most part, which is absurd, but beside the point. Um, we should. We have so many millions of miles of abandoned train track in this country. It's literally ridiculous. Anyway, we don't really have trains, so we're going to do like a sleeper train. We're going to go on a boat ride down the Nile. We're going to have a traditional dinner made for us by Egyptian people at an Egyptian house, basically, which is going to be incredible. So there's a lot of like modern culture we get to experience right alongside this beautiful kind of ancient culture, and kind of pairing the two together is going to be a really unique experience. I'm excited for that.
I'm excited for all of it. I can't wait to go there. The last time I went there, it was a really amazing trip where we had this beautiful experience where it was almost a private trip. This time I get to go with people like me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a full circle moment to be able to go there with people who get it and are seeking and are as excited about these things as I am, and that I get to share information with, because so much of what happened in the Hellenistic era of astrology and alchemy and all of these things happened in this period. Well, part of the period that Egypt covers, but Egypt was a huge factor in a lot of that. Valens was writing from Egypt. And it's just really cool to be able to go to this place where so much, my favorite word is henotheism, which is a
Mm-hmm.
belief system that allows for all beliefs to exist at the same time. And it was
Mm-hmm.
a very henotheistic time where
Mm-hmm.
they just literally found an astrolabe today that has both Aramaic and Hebrew on it, showing that there was collaboration between Islam and Jews for astrology, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But that happened. That happened more than we think. And this is where a lot of it happened. And we get to tap into the what if everybody can coexist kind of feeling. And it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also, I just want to say, like, we are taking the effort and the intention to kind of make our trips. If they're not, they're really deep dive trips, is how I'm going to put it. Where they're like spirituality, like 102 through 105. Like, it doesn't, if you're still a beginner, you can still go. It's just you're going to get a really quick crash course on channeling, on tapping into things and growing your spiritual abilities, whatever. It'll be really fast. And also the things that we teach there, the things we talk about on these trips now, especially going forward in our trips, are going to be a lot deeper, a lot more soul energy stuff, a lot more channeling it in, a lot more of us kind of pushing people to channel.
Mhm.
Um, and that already happened like in Greece. One of our travelers had an incredible experience with Hephaestus, and I will never get over it. It's incredible, it's amazing. But again, it's because you're opened, and we intentionally kind of open us all up in a healthy, safe way at the very beginning. And especially in this space, it's going to be fascinating. I also really excited because we do get to go to the brand new Egypt Museum, the Egyptology Museum in Cairo, which is, I mean, it's the largest collection of Egyptian artifacts ever opened, ever.
Mhm.
And so we're going to see that. I think it's on the first or second day. So we get to go in and we get to channel kind of from those objects as we walk through. And then for the rest of the trip, we get to go to the places where those artifacts were found and match the puzzle pieces up. And
Yes.
it's going to be so neat. It's going to be so neat.
Gave me an idea for a sort of off the cuff workshop we can do while we go through the museum that I'll tell you about when we're done recording. But
Okay.
opportunities for connecting dots. And I'm just so excited for everybody that's going to be on the trip and to be able to share stories that will be able to sort of translate some of that energy when we get home with everybody who's listening.
It's going to be so cool to just like, one of our favorite things to do is just walk around and get reads on stuff.
Mhm.
Like we did it a lot when we were out at Sacred Spaces, going through like Hollywood Cemetery. We're just walking around and getting reads. And it's going to be like a whole immersive experience of walking around and getting reads, which is just, it's incredibly cool.
Mhm.
It's incredibly cool. I'm glad we get to do that. It's nifty.
I'm really interested because I created a connection with Sekhmet last time I was there, and
You
she's been
did.
coming through a little bit more in recent months, but in the past few days, even more so. So I have a feeling that even though for me it's a little bit of a solo travel because I won't be able to bring Dan along with me, a lot of the time I'm going to be probably talking with Sekhmet, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. I got so so
Have you
funny.
ever seen the Power Rangers movie from like the 90s where it was Ivan Ooze and all that stuff? And they changed from the dinosaur Power Rangers to these more like rainforesty animals. And
No.
Zach, not Zach, I think it might have been Zach. The ranger who was the he ended up they were like, Zach, why are you so disappointed? And he's like, I'm a frog. And that's what you reminded me of. I have both.
I mean, don't get me wrong, this is
Oh, it's great.
amazing. I'm so excited to have those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so excited to have those. But I don't know why. He's here. We've
Magic.
gotten some downloads. We've gotten some downloads. We've gotten some information. He is starting to become more part of like my narrative when I talk to my guides. He does occasionally interject and exist. Um, he came in preemptively knowing like what was it, September, maybe? I think he
Yeah,
popped in.
right around the Tahoe Forgotten Storytellers retreat.
So yeah, I would have been like September. So he came in like September and was just like, "Hey, I'm here now." And just kind of stood and has looked down at me with his big old bird head um for months. And then I got some downloads from him, which were really cool while I was just like randomly setting up my hookah one night because I smoke hookah on occasion and I was setting that up and it was just like bam, downloads. And I was like, okay, thank you for this. That's cool.
Hmm.
And just hung out with him for a while there. Now, had a different thing happen where I did this bunch of protection and stuff and energy work on my house, which I'm not really going to go into. But he changed position. He's no longer has his hand on me. Now he's like, every time I talk to him, he like holds me like a baby almost in his hands, which is the most awkward shit ever.
This is
By
how
the
we
way,
know you're not making it up because what?
why? Why is this occurring? And I'm not even kidding. It's every time I talk to him, I'm now like, when I like look at him, I'm being like cradled in his big old Birdman hands. And it's like, why are we doing this? Do I know why? No, I don't. But it's some sort of preparation for Egypt, I assume. So when I say I got those, that's what I mean. Do I know why? No, I don't know why. Um, but he's here. So you'll be talking to Sekhmet and having probably a very productive conversation. And I will freaking like, what about this? And hopefully I get an answer.
Yeah, and I will tell you, discussing with Sekhmet, and I'm glad we're talking about this because this plays into Deity Academy, which we just
It
launched
does.
today. So if you're interested in like, wow, I want to kind of converse with deities or see if there's a deity trying to reach out to me, we have a thing for that. It's Deity Academy. You can find it at forgottenstorytellers.com. Go to the top where it says Deity Academy, get all the information there. But
Yep.
with Sekhmet, it's more of like the disapproving aunt feeling.
Mm,
And she's always looking
lovely.
like, are you going to do it well enough? And I started out being like that, well, I'm gonna try, I promise. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna do it enough. Like, I don't know what your
Nice.
well enough is. So we have sort of an attitude thing that we kind of go back and forth with. But it seems to be the right answer some of the time here. So
Yeah. 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 Deity Academy. If you ever heard my stories of Apollo and Hermes and now Thoth, like obviously we do a lot of deity work. We've just launched it, Deity Academy. So go check it out. We have some spaces open still. By all means, we would love to have you be part of it. It's a 4 month channeling experience where we'll be channeling our way through 4 different pantheons, April through July, really teaching you how to bring deity work into your world and into your space. Krista and I channel the deities all the time. We do it for each other. We do it for ourselves. We talk about it a lot. We have never really done a lot of collaborative channeling with people in attendance. We do it all the time, like constantly. We're doing it all the time, at least twice a week. But we don't usually show people that world of ours so much. Like if you're in the Forgot Storytellers, you've seen it a little bit, but usually that's for kind of your benefit or sussing out like limiting beliefs, that kind of thing. This is us just straight up being like, okay, we're accessing this pantheon. Who wants to come through? Let's share the messages. Are you getting the same thing? And just bouncing off of that. Personally, I know it's a really interesting experience to witness. People who have witnessed it, primarily our husbands, have been like, damn, that's intense. We're like, oh yeah, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to let everyone in to see that. And that's what Deity Academy is. So you get to be part of the Deity Academy, a community where you can do your own deity channeling, compare deity channeling with each other, have a lot of like collaboration. If you're getting signs, you know, if a clock won't leave you alone or something like that, you can throw that in there and be like, who do you think that is? Ask questions. It's a whole community just devoted to Deity Academy scholars, which is what you become when you join Deity Academy. And then you get we're doing 4 channeling calls where it's about like an hour and a half, and we're going to do a little bit of education and really channel in those deities as well as some aligned high vibration research resources that we're going to be giving you for each of the different pantheons. And those will take a ton of different forms, and they'll be fun to use, but it'll really just give you this immersive, life-changing understanding of how to work with the gods.
Yeah. Yeah, so the research may sound dry and stuffy. It is not. It will be in the form of podcast episodes, fiction books, sometimes other resources that might be a little bit more nonfiction, but it's cool because it's deities. Like one of the
Yeah.
ones that I highly recommend is Mythos by Stephen Fry, which is a hugely
Mm-hmm.
interesting read, which will be for when we get into the Hellenic pantheon. And it
Mm-hmm.
will all be enjoyable, and there will be options where you can choose the one that is enjoyable for you, and you can do multiples if you want, or you can stick with one. And then after the channeling seminar day, you'll have tools to be able to connect with these deities in the proper way to try it out for yourself if you feel called.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's going to be really cool. And we actually are going to start by doing the Egyptian pantheon. So, if you're part of a deity academy, you're going to not only get to hear about our experiences in Egypt, but also we will have connected with these gods in their temples,
Mm-hmm.
and then get to bring that energy back to you and do a channeling of these gods with you on the call, which is going to be a unique as hell experience. It's going to be really cool. So go check it out. ForgottenStorytellers.com. You can find the D&D Academy link right there. We're incredibly excited. It's going to be so expansive and cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just so expansive and cool. Yeah, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. Thank you for listening to all of this as well. Like, we're so appreciative of you being here and being a listener on the podcast. Like, it means the world to us. And thank you to our patrons. You are fantastic. We think you're awesome, but it's because of you guys we get to offer these really cool things and experiences, and really open up a different side of spiritual stuff that's occurring. And I do just want to say too, like, I know everyone has felt it, but I want you to just take a moment, maybe over the new moon, or maybe when you're done listening to this, and just think back 3 years ago, how different the spiritual energy was as opposed to now. No matter where you were in life space, if we think back on with the spiritual lens, not just to like, oh, I was a different person 3 years ago. We all were, I promise. It's been a transformative 3 years. But 3 years ago, what was the spiritual energy like then versus how it's showing up now? It is so different because we have truthfully like ascended so much in the last 3 years, 4 years really. um the vibration has come up so quickly and so drastically that things that ordinarily would have been out of our reach or out of our purview or out of what we would even think possible are now becoming very everyday and normal. And it's really important right now during this time to like take that moment and check in and be like, okay, what was 3 years ago like? So I've been working together since 2018, so we were with each other. But so for us, we've kept
A lot.
right. We've kept really dutiful track of how it's changed, but I will still do this regularly. And especially right now, before we're going on this big transformative experience, I always take a lot of time to be like, okay, how have things already changed for me, so that going through this experience, change can feel normal, change can feel good because I've already changed in all these ways along with the planet. So I'm going to let this change me too, and kind of grow from that space. It's really important to do that, obviously, whether you're going on a trip or not, but especially right now because so many things are growing and changing and spiritual energy is shifting so quickly and all these different things. It's a good time to do that. And I can't encourage you enough to go do that.
Yeah. And changing is not a bad thing. I love the way you said, I'm going to let this change me too. That's activation. One of the things I talked about in my Patreon this week was Uranus, who Richard Tarnas proposes that instead of Uranus, the sky god, we should have named him Prometheus, the awakener,
Mm,
because Uranus can awaken a lot for us. And so letting this change me too is inviting an awakening. And I really
hmm
love that perspective.
Yeah. So embrace that because there's a lot of change happening. And yes, it's scary, but don't lose sight of the fact that there's good change with it.
Mhm.
'Cause there is. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being here. You're awesome. We don't, so you're going to have basically a couple, we're not going to have any break in the podcast episodes, even though we're traveling to Egypt, is basically what we're saying. So we're kind of preemptively recording. We're also getting into the equinox that's coming up this month. And then the first eclipse.
Yeah.
Eclipse season is coming up this month. Where are eclipses? What signs are they in?
They are going to be the lunar eclipse in Libra, and then the solar eclipse and a comet in Aries. So March 25th
Ooh.
in Libra, April 8th, solar eclipse and comet in Aries.
So we're going to have some in-depth, especially on that solar eclipse with comet. We're going to have some really in-depth episodes coming your way about all of these things. Obviously, the equinox we always touch on as well, but especially with this eclipse season. Personally, I'm thrilled. We are moving from eclipses that are in two houses of mine, which they have been for the last like 4 years. I forget exactly what it's been, but it's been every eclipse has had both houses in mind for like at least the last 2 years, of my big three, which has been so much to go through. So now I only have one. It's just Libra, and I'm so stoked on that. I need them out of my big three houses, please.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm thrilled, but it's going to be really interesting eclipse energy this time. It's big world changes are going to happen during this eclipse season, and we're here for it. So we'll give you updates, but that's just what you can be looking forward to this month.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anything else, Krista?
No, I think it's going to be really great. I'm doing an analysis of the year ahead based on the Aries ingress, and I'm having it peer reviewed by my mentor this week. I'll be posting a really super in-depth, like, how does the astrology work on my Patreon? But I will bring it to our education here on the podcast as well to a certain degree.
Perfect. Yeah. Also, I am doing a Train With Me program. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm going to keep hinting at it until I give you a launch date. It's going to happen. But it's happening very soon. I don't know if I'm going to launch it before Egypt or when we get back from Egypt, but it's going to be a long Train With Me program where you get all of my knowledge of how the universe works, and expanding your abilities and deep dive into your spiritual stuff too. So I'm excited for that, but I don't know when it's coming. It's coming soon, probably this month sometime. Anyway, awesome. Well, thank you all so much. And we hope that you take this incredible energy of this week, be safe, and go make some magic. I don't know.
It was
Okay.
on my end. I'm just going to sit with that perfection.
It was like, it looked delayed, like there was like a jitter thing, but I don't know. Anyway, maybe that made it better,
Maybe it finally got in sync.
right? We just need a reception to be there.